Welcome to another episode of the CarryTrainer Higher Line podcast. Hey guys, welcome to yet another episode of the Higher Line podcast. We've got an awesome guest today, Mr. Robert Vogel. You go by Bob or Robert?
Anymore, I say Robert, I guess. Bob's all right. Kind of started to sound like an old man to me about 5 years ago. So started saying
Bobby with an I?
Bobby's even younger, so we can go with that. Sure.
Bobby.
I like Bobby. Just with a Y, though.
Not with the I?
Not with the I.
All right, fine. So those of you that listen to the podcast that are not shooter types, Bob is a internationally recognized competitive shooter. You've won world and national titles, right? In many state and regional titles. Some people maybe recognize your face. You were on season 4 of Top Shot.
Yep, that's pretty good. Yeah, I was expert on one of the seasons or one of the episodes on season 4 of Top Shot. Yeah.
Yeah, you weren't one of the competitors. That would have been cheating, but you were one of the.
Yeah, that was a whole nother story there, but yeah.
And then you also were or are law enforcement officer. I think you got 10, 15 years in the police business.
It was full-time for 8.5 years. And then basically I've been on the reserve or auxiliary for the last 8.5. So okay. I guess altogether about 17 and then full-time 8.5.
Okay. So shooting took off and you decided paid a little better or you enjoyed it more than grinding it out?
It just was it was a process. You know, I started, in short, I started competing just out of high school, and the first probably 5 to 7 years was total hobby for me. Obviously, I did well from the beginning and got to the point, in the beginning, spending all my money on bullets match fees, and got to the point where I was breaking even and then actually starting to make money and do classes. And it just, I couldn't get enough time off work. So I left in 2012 and I've been doing the whole shooting teaching thing full time now for, I guess closer to 9 years.
You're a Glock shooter, right?
Yeah, I didn't start out shooting Glocks, but I've shot them pretty exclusively for most of my career since about 2005.
Okay. A lot of people like to reference your grip because you shoot a stock Glock. And so I've heard guys across the country, well, Bob does it this way. Bob does it that way. It's like, I don't give a shit what Bob does. That's kind of like,
the grip thing, I guess, is, that's, people talk about that a lot.
I met you once at SHOT Show and you had a pretty strong grip, like shaking your hand. And so that's like my Bob Vogel story. Like, maybe he controls the gun so well because he's got a, strong grip. But you're not some huge
No, I'm not that big guy. I'm like 6'1", 180. I mean, I did, really get into the hand strength thing, and I made some videos and stuff with that, and so that got out there. People talk about that a lot. I mean, I got strong fingers and strong hands, but it's not something crazy. I think a lot of it is like
manipulating the gun that make your hands strong.
Yeah, well, it's that, and then about 2008, I think I started using the Captains of Crush grippers, like really heavy duty grippers.
Okay.
And a lot of it is I figured out about 50% of its strength and 50% its technique. So like I can close a number 3 Captains of Crush gripper. I mean, most people don't know what that is, but there's not many people that can do that. And I can do it. I got strong hands, but a lot of it's I know how to do it. And so you do that and you hand it to some 300-pound bodybuilder, huge guy, and they can't do it. And then people are like, oh my God, how is that?
Number 3, so that's what I have to order and see if I can do it.
Yeah. Number 3, Captains of Crush. Iron Mind is the company. Captains of Crush is the name of the gripper. Yeah, that's the heavier one.
All right. So did you develop any like arthritis or tendonitis? Like I noticed when I train a lot, my tennis elbow flares up.
Yeah. Funny that you mentioned that. Just a couple of months ago, it's been on and off here or there over the years, but a couple of months ago, I got it. My left arm came back, and it's about as bad now as it's ever been.
Oh, shit.
I got a shot in a couple weeks ago, and it's just it's definitely something. I think that was just more with the shooting, and over the years, I've learned to stretch a lot, which helps. But I cut my hand, and I couldn't stretch like I normally stretched, but I could still shoot, and I think that had something to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been an issue here and there.
You're kind of like a country boy, right? You grew up shooting.
Yeah, very much. Grew up in the country.
Hunting.
Yep. Yep. So I was a little boy, hunting, shooting, kind of didn't get to town too much till I was probably about, 15, 16. And,
Did you grow up on a farm?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Grew up on a farm. We had 800 hogs.
Okay.
Farm.
Okay.
Up until I was about 17. Then we got out of that part, but yeah. So
you know about hard work.
I mean, I'd like to think so. Yeah. I mean, I was, had chores and stuff since I was a pretty little boy, and, baling hay and castrating hogs. Actually, that was the worst job.
I was about to say, I have a memory, my mother sending my brother and I to a neighbor hog farmer on castration day and teeth pulling day. Yeah.
That was, being me and my brother, 10 or 12 or whatever. And you had to hold the hogs up that were 20 pounds and hold them up against the gate, and Dad had, cut it out and everything. And sometimes they'd bite the back of your leg, and you had, do that to 100 of them in a day or something. So that was some memories.
Horror. If people only knew what went on farms.
Yeah. And you had to, I was about the same age. I had to pull one time, they were having piglets, and my dad's man's hand was too big to reach in there. So they put a big rubber glove over me. I had to reach, all the way up the back end of the hog,
boy,
and try to pull it out. I was probably about 12, and yeah.
That's a good memory.
Yeah, it was, I looking back, is probably good stuff for me to have done. Made other things easier.
I ran into an old friend recently that told me that to this day he still has nightmares about being at our house one time when we had dairy goats when we were burning horns, and it was pretty horrific for the animal. You're burning its freaking head with a hot iron, and they're little, 20-pound cute goats, and they scream bloody murder. I'm sure it's traumatizing, but my buddy, who's now in his 40s, is like, that was the worst thing I ever saw. And to this day, every time I see a goat or smell burning hair, I remember it.
Yeah, we did that some, and the smell, that's the one thing you can't duplicate. That's a terrible smell when they do that.
Mm-hmm.
I never forget that either.
So you started competing as a kid. How old were you?
Well, I didn't shoot my first match. I was 19. I'd say I started kind of like informal type competitions that we made amongst friends stuff when I was about 15. I got handguns. I was not allowed to have a handgun real early. I mean, rifle, shotgun, 9 years old. I was hunting by myself, squirrels at 9, but I wasn't trusted with a handgun. So naturally, that's why I wanted one, and got into the whole dirty, hairy John Wayne, Clint Eastwood stuff, and got first handgun at 19. And I got a hold of a couple of books, and that was really what took things off for me. I was just never the same after that. Yeah, the first book, I still got it. It's probably in 10 pieces, called Combat Handgunning by a guy named Chuck Taylor, which I don't know if he just died, if he's still alive. Old Vietnam vet guy. It was written about the year I was born. It was old at the time. And he was not a competitive shooter, but it was more on the real life type stuff or whatnot. And I read that thing cover to cover. He did mention in there a little bit about IPSC shooting. He was kind of in that first generation that started that stuff in the 70s or even 60s. And but that was back before Columbine. They let me do reports on that stuff in school, and it was just all I filled my head with. So that was really what got me started.
Was there another book?
I mean, that was probably the main one. And then when I got into actually competitive shooting a few years after that, the whole Ryan Enos practical shooting on fundamentals, which is very common. A lot of people would read. That was probably written late 80s, early 90s.
I wonder if I've got a copy down here.
Yeah, you probably got that there. That was the first real shooting technique.
I'm like 2 years older than you. And I remember the first time I read that, I was just like, the is he talking about?
Some of it is a little deep.
I was pretty cerebral as a young man, but some of it I'm like, show me how to point the thing and shoot it faster. Like, what are we talking about? Yeah, but it's a good.
Some of it's a little deep for sure.
Yeah. So you start having some competitions with buddies, and then what? You got into it a little more and started finding out like some legitimate competition venues. Yeah, I got some of the drills and stuff out of that combat handgunning book, and I got 4 or 5 friends that are all
still my friends to this day. And, you know, we all had guns and stuff. And then, you know, back then, I don't know, I suppose the internet was around, but we didn't have it. So I read all the gun magazines, like cover to cover. Yeah. And I read about this thing called IDPA, which had really just started not too long before that. And then I just started researching it, and I found there was a club an hour away, and I called up like, hey, you know, I'm looking to do this. And he's telling me, okay, fourth Sunday, this and that. And I showed up. I was 19. I'd lied about my age. I didn't have somebody to go with me. So I think I said I was 21 and went there. And I had done some research. I'd read the rule book and everything before that. So I thought I knew what I was doing. I went there, and it was an eye opener for me. I'd never competed against anybody other than my friends. I was a lot better than them, but they're just doing it to appease me. Mm-hmm. So I just go there, have no idea, and put me on the beginner squad. And, I shot the match. They said, well, the good shooters are over there. And I'm shooting on the beginner squad. I'm a lot better than anybody there. But I wondered, well, how am I doing against those guys over there? I never got to see them. And they said that back then they emailed you the results. So like a week later, they emailed the results, and I'd won. Actually by quite a bit. And it was like 20 guys. I mean, it was a local match back then, but still to me to this day, like I probably got as much of a high off of that as I did winning the nationals in the world, years later. And that was really the light bulb just kind of went on in my head. And I just like, maybe you could be really good at this. I kept doing it. I shot a state match. I won my first state match, like the end of that year, or less than a year later after that happened. And I beat a guy that was like third in the nationals the previous year. So I just like, maybe I could actually be really good at this if I just keep going. And that's what I did. So
that was IDPA, that state match?
That IDPA back in, 01, 02.
So you're 19, you're a liar, you're at a match with a bunch of old guys, you do good, and then you decide I should go become a police officer. You like how I kind of phrased all that?
Yeah, I was already I'm trying to think. I was already in the academy then. That would have been the summer. I figured out 15, it was the military or cop. And I went with the cop thing. And so I knew I was going to do that a few years before. Got out of high school, went to a 2-year academy thing. Like where you got an associate degree and the police academy certificate, same thing. So I was pretty much right in between my first year and second year in the police academy when I actually went to that first match.
How'd it go when you were in the academy? Like I've got a lot of friends that are cops, and we always joke about and I've had friends that we were shooting buddies, and then they went to the academy. A lady I knew, and she was all nervous, like she might not do good for the shooting portion. And I'm like, you're like, an A-class USPSA shooter. Yeah. You're gonna do pretty darn good there. Yeah, like stop thinking about it. But like, how was that for you as a young man being there? Were you able to keep your ego in check?
Yeah, well, it was definitely a story I tell. I mean, at the time, it was taught by a couple of pretty old guys at the time. This is 20 years ago, and I really did keep my mouth shut. But it came out, the other guys in the class, they knew what I was doing, everything, and they made, he's a competition shooter or whatever. So they started asking me, and they didn't really like that so much. And they called me the paper punch the whole course, which I like to say, well, what the hell are we shooting here? We're shooting freaking paper targets, So anyways, I mean, they hassled me a little bit. Obviously I could do everything you had to do. So, easy. It was no problem, but they were trying to be a little intimidating to me. I remember we went to the range, and they were giving me a hard time one day, because it was all back then. It was all the Weaver stuff. So at least these guys. So they just, the whole, how we do it now, they were like, you don't do that. You got to do this. And like, man, just, can you politely, I'm just trying to let me do what I can do. And then they brought a couple other younger cops, like 20s or 30s or whatever in. And those guys, when the older guys weren't looking, the younger cops were telling me like, hey, you're doing it just right. You're doing it how they teach in this academy and all this stuff. So it was kind of weird. And at the end, I remember the one, I mean, not to sit here and brag or whatnot, but at the end, they had a shoot-off thing, and I wasn't going to say anything. I won the shoot-off thing, and the guys tried, the instructors, to shoot off against me. They wouldn't do it, and I didn't say anything. But I remember thinking, yeah, pussies. I just that kind of. They remember that.
Well,
but no hard feelings. That was just how that was. I went through
sure.
the 8 years after that. I went through like the state training and going in there thinking it was going to be the same sort of thing. It was the exact opposite. The guys were real super cool about everything. And, your general consensus on how things are done changed.
Starting to slowly evolve. So
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I mean, in general, I think I heard Todd Jarrett a long time ago say that in general, law enforcement military is about 15 to 20 years behind the learning curve. And I tend to agree with that. Like when things actually become a norm, not saying that people don't do that before, but when things really are like this is normal now. When it gets to that point, look back and that stuff was probably invented 15 to 20 years before.
Just talking about that with, do you know Dr. Middlebrooks? Or know who he
Yeah,
is?
I never met him, but I remember. I think I remember that guy. Yeah,
Talking
started
about
fist. Was it the fist fire guy?
Fist fire. Yeah. No, he was a great shooter. He was a top-notch dude. We're talking about red dots, and now it's like these things are so cool. You can screw them on a pistol, and it's like, well, wait a second, like dudes were doing this in 1985, 90, like it's not new. And there's dudes that are friends of mine making a good living going out and teaching it.
Yeah.
Like from a like combative standpoint. And it's like, well, why don't you go talk to dudes like Jerry Barnhart that were, that have been running a dot on a pistol for freaking 30 years.
Yeah.
It's just kind of funny.
I say that all the time too. That same thing with the dots and all.
Do you shoot dots at all?
I mean, I've got some guns with dots on them. I'm not real heavy into them, and I've pretty much stuck with irons for the most part. I mean, I do it. Obviously, it all depends on what you're doing. The longer and harder you make the shots and everything, and the more slow fire bullseye-ish you get, the more of an advantage you have with the dot for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if I'm just,
do you have good vision?
I'm just running close targets, but go ahead. What's that?
Do you have good vision?
I do still. Yeah, I've had contacts since I was in 7th, 8th grade, but I still have like 2015 vision with contacts. So
corrected, you've got excellent vision.
Corrected. I've always had I still have good vision, and usually goes out sometime in the 40s for most people. They say the ability to shift focus and all.
You're 39, aren't you?
I'm 39. Yeah.
Shit.
So we'll see. Hopefully it happens like in the late 40s.
I haven't had any of that kind of blurry, close up stuff yet. So I'm hoping that stays away. I just remember a video of you. Maybe it was a Panteo video. I don't remember where it was from, but doing some long distance pistol work with your, I think it might have been your competition or duty.
Yeah.
Doing some like fast out of the holster work, hitting A zones at like, I think it was like 50 or 75 yards. That sound right?
Yeah, probably some stuff. Yeah. I'm trying to think which one that would have been, but
go ahead.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Yeah.
My point was it was pretty darn impressive. And I'll reference stuff like that. Dave Harrington, you probably know who Dave is.
I know Dave.
Another guy like that for the point I'm making can validate not having a dot. You can make some pretty darn good shots pretty quickly.
Yeah. You definitely can. I mean, I shoot right out of my house. My range is back there. So for instance, like right where I'm looking right now, I see it's 90 yards, like a BC zone target at 90 yards out my window. Awesome. So I'm just messing around with a dot. I mean, that's where the difference, like I can hit that thing pretty much every time with a dot. With irons, it's not as consistent. I mean,
the slightest deviation in that sight picture, and
you just can't tell the preciseness in the sight picture, and it's just a little bit tougher to do. So I mean, a lot of it just so much depends on what you're doing. If a lot of the guys, people that don't compete, guys that do a lot of the B8 stuff at kind of par time, you're going to see a lot more of a difference in performance with a dot versus not a dot versus, you're shooting USPSA targets. I mean, scoring them that way, it's more of everything's an accuracy speed balance, but it's geared a little more towards speed, you know, and you're shooting, you know, 5, 10, 15 yards, even 20 yards on full targets, then you just don't see, I personally don't see nearly as much of an advantage with the dot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the dot's an advantage. It's just, I think you have to be at a certain level really to do better in all aspects of shooting with it. A lot of guys at that lower level, middle level, they're actually worse at the up close stuff with a dot because, you know, they can't find the dot, or they don't learn how to actually shoot without actually seeing the dot. And, you know, they're slower with it. They're actually worse. Now, you know, the best guys, in my opinion, the best guys, dot versus non-dot, they're going to shoot about the same on the close stuff, and they're going to shoot better on the far stuff with the dot. Everybody will shoot better on the far stuff with the dot. You know, it's just, are you going to be able to shoot the same on the close medium stuff?
Yeah.
And in my opinion, it's kind of the better guys that can do that. Lower level guys have trouble with it. So then it's just like, it's kind of like a trade-off. Yeah, you're doing the B8 thing, 25 yards under the par time. Of course you're going to do better, but now let's do a, you know, just a, you know, 2 across a bunch of targets. How fast can you do that at 7 yards? And they might actually be slower and a little bit worse with the dot. So it just depends.
What sights do you like? Do you carry the gun you carry like on duty or out and about? Do you have the same sights that you compete with?
Yeah, now I do. I mean, I've had my own sights for, I think, 5 or 6 years, and the Vogel Dynamics Glock sights, and I'm making for MMPs too right now, and working on some others. But they are they get a bigger rear notch. I mean, that's the biggest. The rear notch is wider and it's a little bit deeper and a little bit narrower of a front sight. It's a fiber optic on the front, plain black rear, and it's just with that bigger notch. What's
the diameter of the fiber?
The diameter fiber, I think it's smaller. There's only basically 2 diameters. Is it the 0.0 or the 0.1? I think I got it right here. Fiber, yeah, it's the
skinnier.
It's the skinnier one, yeah. 0.04. They have the measurement, and yeah, 0.04, and it's you know, like 0.17 wide in the front, and it's similar. Quick backstory on that. I got to give credit to the Savigny Warren sights, because in the beginning I shot. I don't know what I even had on my guy. I think I had some Dawsons, and I didn't know anything about anything. And Scott Warren and Dave Savigny came up. I don't know. This is probably back about 06. And they were at nationals, and they knew me by then or whatever. And like, hey, man, gave me one of their sights. Like, try this out. Didn't think much of it. Went home a month or 2 later. I put on the gun, dry fired. And like, holy crap, man, this makes a lot of difference. Like the bigger rear notch. And that's the main thing. So I've always pushed that since then. I came out with mine. They're similar. I made my rear notch a little bit deeper. Though it's a little bit different about them. So you know, if you're really just aiming properly, you're able to see a little bit more of that front sight. But yeah, it is actually the same that I carry. When I was full time, I had to carry the issue gun, which at first was a SIG and then was an M&P. Now that I'm reserve, you actually have your own gun, which I would prefer that anyways. So actually the Glock 35, actually the one of my first nationals with, is the same gun that I would have on duty if I would go in now.
Nice.
And I used to use that on the SWAT team too, because you could use your own gun there. But yeah, but it's the same gun. I've shot a lot in the dark. A lot of people be surprised to hear me say this, but I mean, everybody thinks that if you have some kind of practical gun, like, oh my God, you have to have night sights. If you're going to shoot in the dark, you're going to, but sure. You don't. I mean, if you're going to shoot at something you flat out cannot see at all, there's a little something to night sights. But if you have some kind of a light, or if you're just a little bit low light, that bigger notch, I mean, shooting off the shadows, you're basically shooting off the silhouette of the sight. I won the indoor nationals 10 years in a row. A lot of that was shooting in the dark, and I never had night sights. So I don't think you necessarily have to have them, but
and you're much more versed in it than I am, but everything I played with in the dark, I have found if you're not used to being in low light or no light conditions, it becomes disconcerting for some people trying to find or they're so used to being able to see a sight and they forget that they can still point at whatever it is they're looking at, and probably that's illuminated, because we shouldn't be shooting at
Yeah.
slackness, but
Yeah.
you get
Yeah.
used to it.
You do. I mean, it's a different animal, and you know, luckily I've lived out in the country, so I actually did shoot a lot. I have shot a lot in the dark and low light, and not everybody can do that.
They call that poaching in a lot of areas, Bob.
They would. They would. Can't
That's
say
a
too much
joke. Anybody
about
listening, we're joking.
that.
My friend
Probably.
Les Keys Martoni, Les Pepperoni, he did some work with Wilson Combat. Now he works with Langdon Tactical with Ernest and Amy. He had a site, has a site for the 92s, the Les Pep site, and it's the rear wider, deeper, like you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's what I shoot on my Berettas. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that can make a lot. It's all about vision. It lets you see that sight faster. I mean, you're trying to see a sight picture 4 or 5, maybe even 6 times in a single second. And yeah, it definitely makes a difference.
It's interesting how many different people have patented sighting systems, and theirs is the best. You know, maybe like more of a combative radio mill guy versus a high-speed shooter guy, or like, you know, I don't want to say the name, but the one that's just a big fat blob of Trigicon and the V. I'm not like, some guys swear by those, and it's like, well,
yeah, for sure. Everybody's gonna have a reason for why their thing works the best and everything. Because a lot of things are not real provable. They're just like, you know, this guy thinks this is best, this guy thinks this, and you believe what you believe.
Talking about DR and his instructor course that he does, the sights come off your gun and you're point shooting, and he can point shoot pepper poppers at 75 yards. Tink, tink. Like, that's some cool shit.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen that. It's one of those with the distance stuff with the sights. I would say the biggest thing it would be consistency. Like, can I shoot poppers at 25, 30 yards or whatever, maybe farther with no sights? Yeah. But if you're going to, like, out of 50 rounds doing it, not seeing the sights versus 50 rounds seeing the sights, there's going to be a difference. So for me, you're always going to actually have the best runs if you don't look at the sights, because you can go faster. But how consistent can you do that? You know, and if you're in competition, it's different. I mean, if you're making a video or something, I mean, no offense to anybody, but making a video, any of us, I'm not saying I've never done it, can cherry pick the best run for a video. I mean, but when you in a match, you got hundreds of people watching, and you get one chance to do it when it counts. Like, there's obviously you get one time, and then you're doing that time after time after time after time, and that's usually what separates the people that win, or the people that are just more consistent at it. There might be other people that are actually capable of doing it faster and doing it better, but they're just not as consistent.
Not delivering it when they need to.
Yeah. I mean,
let's talk about that a little bit. Do you get nervous anymore competing, or not? Maybe nervous?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it never has completely gone away. It's just something you learn to deal with, really, more than anything. There's a lot of mental aspects to competing and shooting. It's very much a mental game, and performing at any kind of a high level is a mental game. So a lot of it is, things that you tell yourself and affirmations. I've read a lot of books over the years on high level performers.
My name's Robert, and I'm the best, and I'm going to do good today.
Exactly. That's what you got to tell yourself many times, probably when nobody else is around, but
I do. I walk through the grocery store saying that shit about myself out loud. Yeah.
There's some to do that, but so yeah, sure, I get nervous sometimes. Not less than I used to, but it's just you develop this. You try to develop this part of your mind where, like, when you get nervous, like, you just turn it into a positive. Like, you tell you, like, I do better when I'm nervous. I actually perform better when I'm nervous. And again, doesn't mean it's always going to happen, but
you begin to build that thought in your subconscious. You're telling yourself, Bob, you do better when the pressure's on. Is what you're telling me, right?
And that's honestly that's a lot better word, because I mean, that's pressure. People, no pressure. I mean, how many times? And I'll say this in a class or something, or I'll be on the line getting ready to do something. Everybody's watching it, and no pressure. Though I do better under pressure, and that's exactly what I'll say to everybody in front of everybody. And it's just create that in my mind to where that's actually.
I would probably say I don't give a shit about any of your opinions.
Well, it's that too.
That's just the bully in me coming out.
Yeah.
So you got any stories about getting to a high level of a high level match or something like that and the wheels falling off and you not doing very well?
I mean, it's happened. What I've said to people is that it's to me personally, a lot of it's been unpredictable. I've had some times where I was just rock solid steady in some of the biggest events at the biggest times. And then there's been times where I felt myself, being more nervous than what I thought I should be when it wasn't necessarily a huge deal. And it's, and so, the times where maybe didn't really perform as good as I thought, I try not to remember those so much. You try to, remember the ones where you did better. But then again, there's times where I actually felt really confident when the buzzer goes off and didn't really go real well. And there's times when I was actually more nervous than I should have been when the buzzer went off, and I still actually a performance. It happened. So it's.
So when you look back at those experiences, are you able to quantify or codify anything else maybe going on around you in life, sleeping, eating, family life, anything like that that's affecting it? Or do you not even think about it? Like you said, you kind of discussed.
I mean, not really. I can't really say, and a lot of people can say this, but I guess I can't really say that when I've done the best, this was happening in my life. And when I was doing bad, this was happening in my life, sort of thing. Like I've had some of my best performances when I had no sleep. And I've had some of my worst when I actually had plenty of sleep. So I think a lot of that stuff, a lot of it's in your head. If you think that if you don't get a lot of sleep, you're going to shoot bad, then you probably will. But if you tell yourself it doesn't matter, then it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm not saying never, but there's just a lot to that. A lot of stuff is what you let yourself believe.
I believe that. I agree with that.
And it's just a lot of it is knowing yourself too. Sometimes, I mean, if you're shooting a stage a certain way, like just knowing, I see a lot of people that are good shooters. They try to do things they should do within a stage. Like it's just too risky. And they screw it up and they just, I don't know. It's like, they don't see, it was like they messed this up. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I saw the potential for what you did there and what you did there before. Specifically, I saw that could happen, and I made sure mentally that's not going to happen to me. And whereas they didn't even think of that happening, and then it happened. I know that's kind of hard to explain, but
no, I got what you're saying. Probably part of that is you've shot so many matches and stages that you see nuances that maybe somebody else would not. Right?
I mean, there's something to that for sure. It's kind of a feel thing that you've done. I haven't shot really as much recently, but yeah, I've done it nonstop for 20 years, and in a lot of the bigger matches and whatnot. So you're gonna see things and pick things apart. A lot of it too, I think it's just how particular and how anal people are. Like I'm very, very much that way. Like I drive myself crazy doing it. Like, rehearsing a stage and just going through everything just until it's perfect. It's so easy to be like, no, I got it. It's good enough. I got it. And I got to keep going until I feel I can't do it wrong.
I dig it. Do you, let me rephrase that. Do you feel that the competition stuff bled over into other areas of your life where you saw success, or did other areas of your life, such as like how you attack a stage planning like that, did you bring that mindset from like the work and childhood part of you? Did the competition side drive success in the personal business side, or did the personal business side drive success? Like where was the egg versus the chicken?
Yeah,
or is it just,
I don't know. I mean, it's a good question. I would almost, my first instinct is to say that the competition drove everything else. I I was pretty disciplined when I was younger. Not that I'm not now, but like I didn't drink till I was 20. I didn't drink and I was 23. I was valedictorian of the academy. Like I was like, I'm gonna work my ass off. I'm gonna be number one. I wanted to be the best, and then I thought I was a pretty good athlete. I wasn't some crazy good athlete. I played baseball, but it wasn't until I found shooting, I was 19, that I felt like I am actually really good at something. Like I had a different outlook on my person. Like I'm not saying I wanted to get a big head, but I really felt within a year or two, I mean, I'm won a state championship. I'm up there. Like I'm, top at national, like, man, I'm actually really good at this. And so I just started to kind of look at myself as a person that's maybe on that next level in a lot of things. And I tried to transfer that over to other things in life. Like if I'm going to do this as a police officer or whatever, like I expected myself to be on that next level in everything else that I did.
Because you saw yourself as a winner or as somebody that was belonged.
Yeah, pretty much exactly. I would say that's.
I like that.
That's how that was.
That's kind of what I was striving for. You said what I wanted to hear. I think the listeners probably got it too. You're married. You got kids? Anything like that?
No, I was married for 7-8 years. All my 20s, pretty much. I've been divorced for 8 years now, I think. And my ex-wife, she couldn't have any kids, so that's all whatever. And I had another girl, a couple other girlfriends for longer periods, but no, I don't have any kids, and I'm not married, so I'm still trying to figure that thing out.
All right.
That was one of those looking back, like, and I'm to the point where I don't really care. I'll say whatever, but it was probably a good thing I was, married and very settled in my 20s, because that did help keep me disciplined and doing the right thing more. I don't know if things would have turned out the same if I wasn't. So I don't know.
Okay, well, that's good. It's nice to be able to look back and give credit where it's due. Sometimes things work out pretty good. Are you still competing a lot?
So
I don't pay a ton of attention to that.
Well, yeah, not nearly as much, really. Well, especially this year with COVID. But I went. The focus nowadays for me has definitely been a lot more on the teaching a lot of classes, and that's primarily obviously what I do for a living, and from the business side of things, selling my sites and things. But I went, shooting primarily focus was just winning matches and everything, and shooting 12, 15 majors a year, 10, 12, 15 major matches a year, going to all the nationals, and I won a bunch, and then got to that point where when I left the PD, just, like, okay, well, focus a little more now, make a living. And like, I don't want to say totally I've been there, done that, but I mean, that's kind of how I feel a lot of it. So I don't shoot as many matches. I have given it up, and I am still shooting some, but not as much as I used to. And a lot of times if it comes down to the choice between, shooting a match or doing a class, like, I'm going to probably do the class. It's about the same amount of effort for me, and the classes I actually make money, make a living doing it. And I've got some sponsors yet, but I'm not real sponsor heavy. I don't have, it's a pretty small percentage of any part of my income that actually comes from sponsors. The majority of it is me, with the classes and the products and stuff. So
that's a misconception in this world. I think people see like, oh, I see Bob in Guns and Ammo or whatever. Like that guy's probably doing really good. Not that you're not earning a good living. People assume like, that guy's national champion. Like, well, who pays a guy to go shoot a gun match? We'll cover your match fee and
the vast majority of that stuff is not what a lot of people think it is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a lot of like, here's some free stuff sort of things. I mean, I'm not trying to put any of it down, but it's just, it
doesn't pay the rent.
No. And if you're going to get to the point, I mean, there's guys that do, and I'm not going to speak to what everybody has or anything, but the guys that are getting some decent money out of that are having a lot more obligations too. I mean, it's the job. It's not like just here's a bunch of money, go out and shoot some matches and
you got to
win,
sell
and
guns,
that's it.
you got to sell sites, you got to sell ammo, you got to
show up for all these shows and do all this stuff. So it's just like that's kind of how that is. And I've had my share of sponsors over the years and everything, and it's just I've kind of leaned toward not putting all my eggs in one basket and doing things my own way a little bit, the way I see it.
Yeah.
And that's worked out. It's worked out well for me. So
you've got your business, Vogel Dynamics.
Yeah.
And then you work with some companies. You work with Hornady. You've got their hat on.
Yeah, Hornady. So yeah, Hornady right now. Hornady's been great to me. They really have. Probably maybe 5 years with them or so. I do think they have the best bullets. They're the most accurate. Man, I mean, yeah, they got pistol bullets stuff. That's for 940. That's mostly what I shoot. So yeah, Hornady Burn Apparel has been, which is like a lot of people maybe haven't heard of them. They're a rival to Carhartt, out of Indiana. It's actually not too far away from me. I literally wear their
What
stuff.
are they called?
Burn, BERNE, apparel. They make a lot of workwear. They came out with a concealed carry line with kind of like a breakaway Velcro pocket. You'd have to kind of see it, but they've been really good to me for a few years now.
Cool.
And yeah.
Ammo's the big one, especially if you like to shoot.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that for sure. I've been fortunate, and I've typically always had some kind of an ammo or bullet sponsor for quite a few years, and that's huge right there.
Hornady has done an excellent job at innovating the last 5-10 years. I've got some friends in the ammunition business that never have anything negative to say about what Hornady's doing, and I know that they've really expanded.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I've heard too, and they've always been real good to me and to, sponsored shooters that I know of. So I've been happy.
Any guys out there now that you look at, you're like, damn, that guy's good. I wonder if I could beat him. Like, if you're not competing like that, like you.
Well, I mean, there's pretty much anybody that's won any of the real big stuff recently, like they've been around a while and I've known them and I've competed against them. I can't think of anybody that's won something big recently that I have not actually, that I don't know or haven't shot against, I have been this year, last year, not as much. I still shot, nationals last year and actually this is 2021, but in the last year or two, anybody that's out there winning, has still been around for at least probably 5 years doing it. And I know them all, but I mean, it's definitely changing in the fact that you're getting a lot of younger guys coming up. So it's a little bit of a different group that's winning for sure. That's up there. I mean, I remember when I was the young guy, like on the super squad or whatnot, probably the youngest guy there, one of the youngest. And now I'm the old guy, but like the majority of people are younger than me. Like at that.
Hey Bob, will you buy us beer?
Yeah. I don't know if I get that from him, but it's a younger guy. A lot of it's with movement. Like for me personally, from the waist up, I feel I'm the same, but like I've had some knee issues and kicking down doors, and I can run. I'm still pretty athletic and flexible, but I can't do it like I used to. I'm 39. I can't do it like I did when I was 25. I don't move the same. And that, it definitely takes away a little bit with some of your, times when you have to do that. The shooting part, I feel I'm as good as I've ever been, but yeah.
So getting from A to B. What do you do to stay in shape?
Yeah, honestly, I should do more. The main thing, I stay active. I'm not a guy that sits down at a desk much. I've always kind of religiously watched my weight. Just out of habit, I get on the scale before I get in the shower every day. So it never gets away from me at that point.
If I creep in, you make an adjustment, a little less beer, potato chips or whatever.
Yeah. I've never drank beer. I've only drank whiskey. So that kind of helps. I think
I was hoping you were going to say something manly. Like if you were like, I only drink White Claws or something, I was going to hit the end button here.
Yeah, no.
What kind of whiskey do you like?
I'm not super picky. Anything brown and, 80 proof and up. I drink a lot. I like a little bit of the sweeter taste. I actually drink a bit of like Yukon Jack and some 100 proof SoCo, and I got some Knob Creek 120 stuff. That's
nice.
Not the Not the regular stuff. The regular stuff is doesn't taste right. It's too sweet. But the 100 proof SoCo, which you don't see a lot of people that have that I kind of like the way it tastes.
I'll have to check that out. Brown liquor makes me hot and sweaty and angry.
Does it?
Yeah.
I can drink about any of that. It's just not tequila. Anything but that I have a reaction to that. It hurts my stomach. I don't get drunk off of it. I mean, couldn't drink enough to get drunk.
That makes me feel lovely.
Does it? Yeah.
I'll dance with you. I'll sing to you. Yeah, I'll do cartwheels in the restaurant. Yeah, tequila's good. That's medicine.
That's
soul medicine.
That's one thing I don't like. But
no, okay, I get it. So people have a lot of options these days for training. You were talking about Enos. Back in the day, those guys sorted out everything. Him and Robbie. That they went and validated, put the holster here, there. Now we've got 1,000 training companies and many high-level competitive shooters. What does your company offer that somebody else doesn't, or is it just good old-fashioned Bob Vogelisms?
I mean, I guess what I would say, and I can't speak to what everybody does, but like what I pride myself in is that, I am very much about performance. So, in my classes, like, I'm not foreign to tactics, whatnot, but it was a cop. I'm still a cop. I was on a SWAT team for 8 years. Like, I went through classes and different things like that. I'm not foreign to that stuff, but I am primarily teaching, shooting performance and your skills. It's much more black and white. How fast and how accurate are you? And those two, the accuracy and the speed combined to make your score or your performance, or however you want to measure that. And so I'm very much about that. And that's just, it's more provable. If so-and-so is going to say their way is better, well then, either you do it and prove it, or point to somebody else that does it that way, that actually performs at like a high level, world-class level.
Yeah, set the target up, get the timer out. Let's check it out.
Yeah. I mean, so I'm very much about that and about, performance. And I think I am pretty heavily involved in techniques. They just explaining, I think, like with my grip, I'm explaining it in a lot of detail and show people exactly what to do and this and that with the fingers and the pressure and all this and do some movement stuff. And so everybody has their own take on things. And I tell people at the end of every class, no one person knows it all. I mean, if you really want to be a good shooter, a student of the game, go out and take classes from different people, because you can generally get a little something or maybe more from every person. Even somebody that's maybe doesn't have the credentials as so-and-so or whatever, like they'll probably say something in a certain way at a certain time that's just something's going to click in your mind, and boom, that's going to do something for you that day. And like with myself, I got everything I've ever known from a lot of different people. And a lot of it was secondhand. I never really was a guy that took a lot of classes that wasn't available back as much then. And but I learned indirectly. I watched a lot of videos. I read a lot of books. I watched people. I see them do stuff. And so most everybody
that were influential for you.
If I had to, I mean, obviously a number of those guys, if they put me down as one guy, man, if I had to say one guy, I would have to say my friend Dave Savigny still. He was the one. He hasn't shot as much here in the last couple of years, I don't think, but he was. If I would have I modeled myself a little bit after anybody, would have had to been him. He, the first Glock guy that came along that really crushed it with everything, and he won so much, and good guy, really is a good guy, and I became friends with him, and we shot neck and neck for quite a few years.
Do you remember Pete Milionis? Do you know?
Yeah,
Pete?
I know Pete. I know Pete. I remember
Pete always said the same thing about Dave too. Yeah.
He was came out. I met Pete in like 2006 at the Indiana State match. I remember. I've seen him a few times since then. He came out and took a class with me too. But yeah, that was back in the days when
SWAT. Yeah, he won the speed on steel. He was the champion.
Yeah, Pete's a hell of a shooter.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, for
Definitely.
Sure. Dr. Middlebrooks, who I mentioned, also high praises for Dave. So I think that was back.
I don't think I ever met Dr. If I remember right, Wasn't DR kind of instrumental when Daniel Horner was coming up, I believe, back then? I don't think I ever met that guy, but I remember, that's when I remember.
He's got some mobility issues, like you're talking knee stuff. So he kind of stopped the going to matches because running around wasn't happening with I think he had Lyme disease that screwed his knees up.
Is he, I don't know, how old would he be roughly?
DR's got to be 60.
Okay, yeah, that's about what I would think.
He's an expert gunsmith. He was one of the first guys like bolting dots on things, and him and Benny Cooley with the freaking
Benny,
clamp, like that back in the 80s and 90s, that kind of stuff. Paul Sharp, I don't know if you know Paul, SWAT cop from Elgin, Illinois, black belt in jiu-jitsu. Paul was one of, that's how I met DR. Paul's a close friend of mine. He was like one of the fist player instructors. Paul works out at the site out in Mount Carroll, Illinois, as a adjunct instructor. I think you've been out there before.
In
Mount Carroll, the site.
I might have. At range you're talking about?
Once. Yeah.
I might have. I've been to
place
different ranges in Illinois. Okay. I
thought you did one there.
I probably did. I don't remember.
Doesn't
exactly.
Matter. So do you've got some social media following. I was looking you up, looking at some of your stuff. And what do you think, like looking at this explosion of everybody's got a voice on how to shoot a gun or like shoot 'em up videos, and like, what do you think about all that?
Yeah, I mean, in short, I'm not huge on social media. I'm on it. I gotta be. I'm not one of those guys that's like always putting stuff out there. I don't know. What I think, in short, I guess there is a balance between education and entertainment, for sure. And it just kind of depends on what people want. At the end of the day, the reality is a lot of people, whether they would admit it or not, I think they want to be entertained more than they really want to be educated. I don't even think anything's necessarily wrong with that. It's just the society that we live in. So sometimes people are going to, choose a guy that just has some more entertaining, flashy videos. I'm going to choose that guy over a guy that would probably is actually giving you some more information if you are actually trying to get better. There's just and there's a balance to that. There's no, some people are maybe a little more on one end of the spectrum or the other. You got to try to find your balance where you're at on that scale based off what you're doing and everything. But I've definitely, that's kind of how it seems a lot to me. Cause there's so much more out there and everybody's trying to make these cool videos and everybody has and it's just, can be a little overwhelming at times. So I don't know. I try to keep up with things as best I can and
what do you
stay on top of them stuff.
The caliber of students that come to your classes, you seeing an increase in like base skill levels from people over 5-10 years ago?
I mean, I think on average, probably a little bit, because I tell people, as everybody knows, it's so much easier, like as far as to get information nowadays. I mean, just YouTube, whatever. I mean, you're going to maybe not get the greatest instruction with everything, but you're going to get information like so much easier than back before. You had to really look into it and invest and, buy something, a book, and get it. And there's just so much free information that's just a click away out there. So I think on average that you're seeing a little bit more increase in that.
Okay.
I would say.
What's the big end game for you? Keep teaching, sell your sites, sell some stuff. You got anything planned?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I don't know that I have figured that out yet. I'm still been thinking on that. Cause that's like, where exactly do I want to be at if I, whatever, 20 years now, if I live that long or whatever. To me,
what do you mean if you live that long? You're 39 years old. You're not going to
I know.
59?
69? Well, 20 years be. Well, you're right. It'll be 59. Yeah. Well, hopefully then. I don't know.
My math is like amazing.
Your math is good, but
yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to say I do some crazy stuff. Maybe I do some crazy stuff, and I don't know.
Give me an example of crazy stuff.
200 mile an hour in a car. Down.
Like, what kind of car do you have that goes 200?
Red Eye Hellcat.
Okay.
800 horse. It's well, I've had it to 198. It's supposed to go 203, so maybe on a different stretch somewhere sometime.
Some smoother, some less aggressive road.
Yeah. But I go like a $180 all the time, a few different places. So I don't know. I just that's kind of been the last year or two. That's kind of been my go-to thing that I've really liked to do.
Go-to death wish is a triple-digit collision.
Well, and I
have a friend, I won't say his name because he'll listen to this maybe, but he used to race his motorcycle across a certain bridge that would always be empty at night. And it was like a 5-mile bridge. And so you know it's empty because you could see there's nobody on the bridge. So he'd wind that thing up to 200 and whatever. It was like the fastest crotch rocket in existence. And his wife would, one day you're going to be, I'm going to find you out there. I'm going to get a phone call. And she'd always be yelling at him. And I'm going to divorce your ass. I want to ride this motorcycle. I don't give a shit. And then finally one day he comes like rolling in with like the bike in the back of a pickup truck. And he's all banged up. And she starts giving him the "I told you so." He divorced her like the next day. But
really,
yeah, he cracked up at like 220 or something on this bridge. I think.
But he was okay. But he lived, eh? All right.
He lived. But anyway, I mean, you can just go on a track, then you won't die.
Yeah. You can't. You can't go quite that fast on it. Well, I'm not saying on any track. You got to have like 2.5 miles.
Just so you know, you are admitting to a felony in a podcast.
Well, maybe. Then nobody knows where it's at.
Ish.
But it's kind of it's a different sort of thing. So
I don't care. I like going fast too. I just was saying to my nephew, so I drive like to our classes. I just got back from Texas, and I won't say speeds, but I have a tuned EcoBoost F-150 that pulls my trailer. Triple digits are easy. And I'm like, man, I can't believe I never get pulled over. Like I did like 45,000 miles coast to coast. Like I never get pulled over. This is wonderful. But
do that. Man's right, but
knock on wood.
Yeah,
that's a little different. I took a ride in one of those. This guy had one, your car, not the Red Eye. I think it was like the 750 horsepower.
707 probably.
Yeah. From a couple years ago. And this dude did not know how to drive. So I'm like, I didn't know that at the time because he was bragging on it. So we're just going to go get milk or whatever at his house for dinner. And we pull out, we're in Vegas. We pull out onto a 6-lane, and he gets on it straight sideways, couldn't steer out of it, stop, straighten the car back out, keep going, gets onto that like 50 and walks it out again. It's like, all right, you need to stop because you are going to kill us.
Yeah.
Like if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, it takes a little bit of time on one of those to figure that out for sure. I can definitely do that.
Have you had other fast cars?
So the only other one, I did have a regular Hellcat before, which I bought that. So I've had a Hellcat for like 2 years. I had one,
so the 700 horsepower wasn't enough. That got slow, huh?
Actually, the reason I got rid of that was because I hit a deer with it.
Oh, okay.
And then it wouldn't. They didn't total it because the value of the car was higher, but it took 6 months to get it back, and it wasn't quite the same. It just wasn't quite the same when I got it back. You went at a certain speed, it had a little wobble to it, and so I couldn't handle that, so I sold that and got the Red Eye. Traded up. That's what I had to do.
The new one, the Elephant motor?
Yeah, I don't know. I was thinking there was one they were going to call the Super Stock or something that's just got just a little bit more horsepower. Like, I don't know. I'm not an expert.
Like 1,000. Or
1,000 horsepower. They can definitely soup those up to like 1,000 or around there. I mean, the minute you do that, and then you
soup up my 850 horsepower.
The only downside of that is, with that, if I don't do anything, it's a warranty is 5 years on the motor transmission. So you blow that out in 5 years under 60,000 miles, and you're supposed to replace it.
What do you drive in the wintertime?
I mean, I got that fast car. I got a Ford Fusion. I got a Dodge pickup truck. So I normally just drive honestly my regular Ford Fusion most places.
You're a Dodge guy, huh?
That's my everyday driver. I always like the look of them. And
says a lot about a man that he chooses a Dodge pickup truck.
Well, the pickup truck is not a big deal because that was kind of like.
Note here. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. That's guys always bust my nuts. I've had like 20 F series pickup trucks, so like Chevy guys and Ford guys, Dodge guys.
Yeah.
Always busting each other's nuts.
Yeah, it was always Chevy growing up, and then it's like your dad like Chevy and your buddy's dad was Ford or whatever, vice versa, and it's just a big.
I got to do my own thing, Dad. I'm buying a Dodge. I'm an adult now.
I've had Chevys, Dodges, and Fords all over the years, so I don't know. At the end of the day, didn't make that much difference to me.
Me too. I'm just playing with you. So you travel anywhere somebody wants you, or like how do you set up classes? What's that look like if somebody wants to get you out to a range?
Yeah, pretty much. I've been a lot of places for sure. I mean, it's as far as if somebody wants to get me out, shoot me an email and
go to your
I'm
website,
easy to find.
Send an email.
Yeah. I mean, it's VogelDynamics.com. I should just Google my name, Robert Vogel, but send me an email. Like I get it all the time. Like, hey, what would it take? I'm from here in this range. What would it take to get you out here? And I'll respond. Okay, man, this is what it would take. If you want to do this, you want to go for it. Let's set a date, put it on the calendar, and boom, we'll go for it. So
you handle all the signups and stuff on your website, or is the host responsible for that?
It depends on. It varies from class to class. I can handle that. Honestly, personally, I kind of prefer that range handles it. It's easier for me that way. But some of them can't do it or don't want to do it or whatever, and that's fine. I can do that. I can set it up through my website to handle the registration and payment on my end too. It just kind of a lot of it depends on the club and how they want to handle it and how big they are.
You do stuff for agencies at all?
I do a little bit of everything. Definitely get some agency gigs with a SWAT team or I've done a number of gigs with, any number of the special forces guys, where you go in there and you work with them for a week.
Sure.
The departments and SWAT teams and stuff. Yeah. So a little bit of everything. I like actually traveling out of the country. I've been to quite a few countries, which has been neat for me, even though maybe if I don't, even if the money's not as good, like I'll still go because I don't know.
Getting a paid trip.
Yeah. If it's somewhere, especially if it's somewhere I've never been and just see the world, everything.
Where's your favorite place that you've taught?
Man, I've done a lot of places. Definitely the place I've been the most of, like Costa Rica. I've been there 10 times. Very cool. I got a good buddy there. He's got a house in the mountains and everything. So, I guess if I had to say one place, probably that place. A lot of the other places I've been kind of once or twice. Africa was nice. I went to Nairobi, Kenya one time, and I had a really good time there. A lot of it's kind of places I've gone, it's not as much about the place. It's about, the hosts, and everybody's treated me well, but sometimes people will kind of go a little bit above and beyond and, take you out and show you everything. And
that's awesome.
It's just a different, obviously a different world, a different lifestyle. And you got to see and experience that. And, kind of where most people where I come from really haven't gotten to do that. So I'm proud of that. I like that.
I think it's cool that a country boy slinging lead can get to travel all over the world, showing people how to play with guns.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I'm super stoked about that for sure. That's something that's worth a lot to me. As far as just I don't know how I feel about what I've done and everything. Don't miss it. To me, it's just so much about experience, life. I mean, it's one thing to have a bunch of stuff and a lot of money or whatever. Everybody wants that. Well, at least the money part, but just experience. At the end of the day, no one takes what you've done.
Talk about that a little bit. Is there anything that you'd change, wouldn't change, things you'd go back to? I don't mean like, got to be super specific, but that's my mindset, man. I'm all about like experiences. I'd rather sit and have a meal with a buddy and tell laughs than buy a new something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I gotta know. Because at the end of the day, it sounds cliche, I guess, but the whole, things, stuff, money, possessions like that can be taken away. But like what you've done can't. I remember it was in Ecuador, I think. and I don't speak Spanish, but I can't remember it translated. Whatever the quote was written on these little cups, and the quote, it translated English, was "No one takes what you have lived," and it's just like that's just what I live. I know, nobody can take what you have done. They can take everything else. They can take your stuff. They can take your life. They can take your family, but they can't take what you've done. And so, like, I don't know, if you have, if your pride is in that, then that is what can't be taken away. So I just always, I just kind of live my life like I do live my life like that, and try to do, within reason what I want to do, and not be controlled by other people. I'm just really big on, probably too much on, not being told what to do. Everybody's
I'm like that a lot. That'll actually spur a fight in this house if you try to tell me what to do.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's sometimes it cannot be good in certain things, maybe relationships or whatever, but I mean, you gotta be respectful, but
for sure. I meant like, oh, Bob, that's a dumb idea. You can't travel around and teach people to shoot guns, like stuff like that. I've had people my whole life tell me like business ideas or things are stupid or won't work, yet I've been self-employed 21, 22 years.
Okay.
All right, that's cool. You keep doing that job you hate, and I'm gonna keep, doing my thing.
Yeah, no, I totally relate to you there, because that's kind of where I'm at. I'm been doing my own thing like 9 years, and most people I know is going in the same normal type job or whatever, and they're not really a big fan of, and I just I like the freedom that I have. I want to, you got to be disciplined on your own. I mean, you can't be a slouch for sure, but when you want to do something, you want to take off, like, it's just you. It's not getting anybody else's permission. And that's along with, and I'm happy with what I've done, and I've done well and everything, but that's probably the number one thing that I didn't realize when all through being a cop and doing it on my own, was just how much I value being my own boss, and being able to really make your own decisions and not have to get the level of permission off somebody else. That's huge. That's worth a lot of money.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
I mean, you're used to it. It'd be hard. I mean, it'd be hard for me to go back now. I hope I don't ever have to, but it would be hard for me to go back into something a little more normal.
I won't do it. And I refuse to. I was taking your picture for my collection.
Okay.
Actually, I was going to post it on Instagram, introduce some people to you.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So here's, hopefully you don't have to.
Hopefully I don't have to what?
The whole go back to doing.
Don't. Just like don't let the pressure ruin you. Don't.
Yeah.
My name's Bob, and I'm never going back to work for somebody unless I want to.
And that's why I don't even ask me about what I want to, the future. To me, it's a lot about just kind of getting ahead to the point where, that you don't have to do that. That even if things go kind of bad, like, you'll be able to make it for a long time, and that sort of thing, as far, financially wise, and just, I don't know. I'm kind of big on that. I'm kind of big on, I just talked about getting a red eye Hellcat, but it's like the only thing I've splurged on in years. But I'm actually pretty big on living below my means with the majority of what I do in my life, just to the point where if something happens, okay, I can go so long without having to, work, without having to make this amount of money. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do.
It's a good way to be, man. I think too many people live way beyond their means, and then you're having to get bailouts and all that stuff. Speaking of which, you're a man of the world. What do you think about what's going on in our country? Like, you don't need to go deep in the weeds, but what's the
honestly, it's probably, I used to be up on that. In the last couple of months, I just got so frustrated that I have not, I have not paid as much attention nearly in the last month or two, but I'm just, obviously I don't think it's a good spot for sure. I think that, it's just, man, that a lot of people are in the dark about things, and that I wish I knew what the answer would be, man, to make things better. But I do think, having the wool pulled over our eyes on a lot of things, and a lot of people are buying into it, and I don't know. I'm just
a country boy looking to shoot some guns, drive triple digits, and
yeah. I'm actually I'm pretty political, and I can get pretty heated into that. I've gotten into some major like shouting matches with family members about the whole Corona thing and everything. Like I'm definitely opinionated on that stuff. It's just, God, I don't know.
you got to be able to empathize, though. I mean, your family members or whoever, they're allowed their opinion, right? The double-edged sword of liberty.
Yeah.
I always tell people, like, I'm entitled to my opinion and be right, and you're entitled to your opinion being wrong. Go ahead. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm wrong.
I've said that same thing.
Yeah, I think it's I just was talking to a bunch of people this morning on a live feed online, and I think it's nothing new for human beings. We always act like things were better in the good old days.
Yeah.
I always say the good old days, like when you could own another human and women couldn't vote, and gays would get burned at the stake and shit for loving a person with the same genitalia, like the good old days. But like, we can't. I have a family member that, like, literally online publicly tried to humiliate another family member because one of them likes Donald Trump, the other one doesn't. And like all their friends were attacking him. It's like, this is your freaking blood, man. What the hell's going on here? This is more important. Politics is more important than family. It's insane.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it gets like that sometimes. I mean, I've never had it be like that, but yeah, it's I don't know. It'd be nice, obviously, if things got back to a little more how they were like a year ago. It's been so crazy the last year.
It just comes down to people taking charge of their homes, their communities, and doing the right, sane thing. Hey, we've been talking for a long time. I appreciate your time. I normally wrap these podcasts up with people by asking them something like this. One, give you a chance to, real quick, before I ask you the question, tell people how to get a hold of you one more time.
Okay. Yeah, sure. I mean, name's Robert Vogel. It's VogelDynamics.com is my website.
VogelDynamics.com.
VogelDynamics.com. Yeah. Or if you just Google my name, it comes up first. But my websites and, my super easy to get a hold of right off there. My email, my phone number is actually on there.
You can follow
information about my
on
classes.
Like Instagram, you on Twitter, you on Facebook, you on YouTube.
Instagram and Facebook is all. Yeah, and it's just Robert G. Vogel.
What's the G stand for?
Gordon. My grandpa's middle name.
Gordon Vogel. All
Both
right.
grandpas, actually Robert Gordon, but yeah, that's still use that.
And we'll make sure Drew tosses that up in the YouTube notes for people to find you. So.
On YouTube too. I forgot about that. I don't put a whole lot on there, but
that's kind of important.
Yeah. No, it's weird. I used to kind of be. Yeah, I am on. I do put stuff on there occasionally. So.
Well, this will be up there. I'll share it to your YouTube page. What I was going to ask you is this: so the people listening, you've done a lot of cool stuff in your life. You've reached the upper echelons of a sport and traveled around the world. The people that maybe are listening that have never met you or will never meet you, or maybe that will meet you, what would you leave them with? What's some, like, if you could just have, like, a couple paragraphs to pass on to people, whatever it would be. It could be buy war bonds. It could be don't eat the yellow snow. What would it be?
Sure. I would just say, man, it's just like, I don't know. It's just be a doer in life, and you go out and you. So many people, no offense to a lot of people, but they talk a lot and they don't do. Like they talk about, I'll do this, and 5 years later they're still talking about it. And like, man, just do it. Like, make a decision.
I had this conversation with a loved one yesterday.
Oh yeah, and it's just like, you got to get out there and live your life. I mean, some things are not going to be possible, but like there are a lot of things that most people they could do if they wanted to do it and they decided I'm going to do it. But they just, when it comes right down to it. So many people, unfortunately, I don't say they chicken out, but they just, if it's a little out of their comfort zone, they do. they kind of chicken out and they back down. They don't do it. And you have to have the ability. If I had one thing to tell people is push yourself out of your comfort zone sometimes. Make yourself do things that you kind of want to do, but you just can't quite pull the trigger on it. And just, man, make yourself do it. And that's one thing I think that's helped me a lot, because I was scared, a little bit apprehensive to do a lot of this stuff starting out, whatever, going to match on my own, going to this, going to nationals. There's definitely a part of me that was a little intimidated, but I recognized that I have to push myself to actually do it. And, they say 50% of success is just showing up. And that's a lot of it right there. It's just, if you can just take that first step, whether it's going after a job, whether it's maybe just going on maybe a vacation to somewhere that you've always wanted to go that you've never gone, you don't know how long you're going to live. A lot of guys, like I work with the PD and stuff, and it's like a lot of guys, everything's about retirement. So it's like age in their 20s and 30s and maybe even in their 40s. They're like, oh,
just gave it all away.
Yeah, but I'm going to
it away.
Yeah, I'm going to do it when I'm 55 or 60 or whatever. And then, man, you get to 55, 60 and like you've never really done much. Now you're going to do it. You might not even live that long. So, do as much as you can while you're, maybe somewhat younger in your prime. And I don't know. That's what I would say to people. I just see a lot of people that kind of frustrates me with, honestly, like friends and whatnot. And they're in different situations. I can't put them down. But I wish they would just do a little more of what they want to do. I think they'd be happier.
Yeah, sometimes we get so comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I think Pink Floyd said comfortably numb.
Yeah, that's the song right there. It's kind of almost like a dog in a cage. I got some people I know like that. Like, you take a dog and he's running around, you put him in a cage. The dog doesn't want to be in the cage, but if you leave that dog in the cage long enough, when you open the door, that dog won't come out of the cage. He's been like brainwashed so much that he will still stay in the cage. And, some people, man, I think they're like that. It's sad.
I think that probably 90% of humans are like that. And that's why you see only a percentage of people that are at the elite levels of things. It's not like you said, shooting skills. I don't have the desire to train like you do or other friends of mine do. Mechanically, I probably could do some of those things. I just ain't going to go to the range in dry fire. I'm just not going to do it. And I don't want to. Yeah. Like the trade-off isn't there for me, but I'll do other things that I'm passionate about. And it's like most dudes, though, won't dry fire and go to the match and spend their money on ammo and range time instead of beers and whatever.
Yeah.
I got a friend named Eric Kamps, and he's good. He's a GM. Like, he literally, that is his whole life. I mean, he does a few other things, but it's procure bullets, procure primers, procure, powder, make bullets, make ammo, go to range. And then he dry fires just destroys Glock frames. Dry fire.
Yeah.
Just destroys it.
Yeah. No, that's, it kind of reminds me of, I say, how I was when I was younger. Again, not that I'm not disciplined now, but like I was a lot more obsessive when I was younger because I had the whole goal, the national world champion thing and everything. And then get a little bit older, you've done a lot of it. And I still work hard, but like I enjoy myself more. But you go through different periods in life, and some people, they're just, personality wise, they're just more apt to be that way. That's singularly focused on something. And, and what we're talking about with the shooting stuff, I guess that's kind of what a person has to be. If that's their goal is to, be the best or be one of the best.
I guess that was my point. Like, you have to want that. And oftentimes the person, not that you're not special, but the other guy down the street that didn't go do all that exercise and dry fire and grip shit and obsess about it and talk to himself in the mirror. He could have done all that. He just chose not to. Yeah.
It's all about, like I say, a lot of different things. What drives people. For me, honestly, like if I wouldn't have felt I was as talented and as good right off the bat, would I have put the effort into it? Honestly, probably not, because like my goal from the beginning was I wanted to be a national champion, and I wanted to be a world champion. And I did feel from the very beginning that that was possible, because I was already at this level and I was young and I had hopefully a lot of years ahead of me. And that was what I wanted to do. That's what I chased. It was very much a focus. If I didn't think that was possible, I probably wouldn't have. I didn't really do it. It sounds weird when I say this to a lot of people, but like, I love shooting. It's my life. It'll probably always be a big part of my life, but a lot of that stuff, I didn't do it for fun. Like I didn't always want to go out and do all this practice in these matches, but I knew that if I was going to achieve that goal, that's what I had to do.
I dig it.
And that was just me personally. That's how it was. That's how it was for me. So, and then, yeah. And once you get there, that's the challenge. Is like, I'm super blessed. I'm super grateful that I actually was able to, be a pretty small percentage of people that won, the biggest matches. And then after that, you gotta come up with the drive to do it again, because it's different. There's nowhere up. There's nowhere to go up. It's only down. You can stay the same.
Did you feel any depression or emptiness or hollowness after winning those? I know you hear like people that win like gold medals.
Yeah. I mean, definitely not immediately after, because I was on a high for quite a while. But I would say like within the year to 2 years after, it just had a different feeling, because like I say, you knew there's nothing bigger than that. Now I could do it again, but there's nothing that's actually bigger than that. It was the biggest, in my mind anyways, thing that you could do. So there was, to be totally honest, was there a little bit less drive there? Probably, yeah. I mean, I still did it. I still worked, and but it wasn't quite the same after that. I got to be honest. It was, and then after a few, after you win, however many you win, and then it's just kind of then you start to feel a little bit sometimes where like it's a bad feeling. It's like you have less to gain and more to lose. Like if you win, well, you're supposed to win. Nobody even cares anymore. It's not even going to make the news. But if you lose or you do bad, oh no, my gosh, what happened? And so it can, a little bit of that can come on sometimes too. So it's just, yeah.
What's the goal? Comes down to like, what am I really wanting? Am I just trying to keep putting medals on the wall or trophies on the table, or is there something?
Yeah. Which it is. And to me, it was all, it did win. It did. I never thought, I wouldn't say I didn't think about making a living out of it, but my goal was never in the beginning to make a living. It was to be a national champion. It was to be a world champion. That just in my mind, that is like such a cool thing. And it still is. And that's what I want to do.
You never approached the competition shooting like, I just want to be good at this, or I want to like see how far I can go. There's a specific point I want to hear you, or I want to make, is that you were super specific. You didn't say, I'm going to train and shoot and just see what happens. You said, I'm going to train and shoot, and I want to be the national and world champion. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I mean, in the very beginning, it took me a little bit to realize that, but not too far in. That was
always the goal that you were marching towards.
Yeah. That was always the goal. And I'm lucky in the fact that, obviously I haven't always won. I didn't always win, but I never really, coming up, I never really felt like outclassed. Like I might not have won, but I could kind of see how I lost, and I could see, like, I could still see myself winning. Like it wasn't to the point where like, oh my God, these guys are all just so much better than me. And there's just no way I can beat them. I'm just like, I can't do it. I'm not that good. I'm luckily for different reasons, I never felt like that. And so that, I think if I had felt like that, it would have probably been harder for me to, not saying even I wouldn't have done it, but it would have been harder for me to keep pushing on. But I always saw the light at the end of the tunnel. And I always felt that I could do it. And it's easier to push on when you feel that way. So
makes good sense to me. Man, I appreciate you sharing a lot about your journey, your life, your business, and being a good steward of the shooting sports to the general public, and for keeping the the things that you've learned in the public purview for people to have the ability to come out and learn them from you. That's cool. A lot of guys, don't want to share some of that stuff because they don't want to create competition.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I know what you're saying. I don't know. The older I get, the more, like 5 years ago, I probably wouldn't have said some of the stuff that I just said now. Like I'm getting to the point where, I just don't, I'll say what I think, and this is how it is for me. And if people have some kind of issue with that, whatever, that's fine. But no, yeah, I appreciate, man, having me on the show. I'm always open to this kind of stuff. So I always, say yes and get on and just talk. And
well, I'd probably have you on again if you'd like to do that. And I also,
sure.
I'll hit you up offline here and talk about hosting a class sometime with you. It's always try to host a few classes a year of good people so we can make that happen. Yeah,
no problem. Yeah, I'm always open for that, looking for different places to go and whatnot. So I'm all for that.
We can
definitely.
I appreciate you. You guys that listened and watched, remember these podcasts are brought to you by Gunfighter Gun Oil and Gunfighter Brands, lube and grease and cleaner, top-notch stuff. If you guys have not checked out Bob or his pages, please do. Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook, and Vogel Dynamics on the interweb. Be well. Don't be dickheads. Tell somebody you love them. Visit our website, CarryTrainer.com, for information about classes held throughout the U.S., CarryTrainer apparel, and upcoming projects. You can also email us at training@CarryTrainer.com for information about setting up your own private course or speaking engagement. Training@CarryTrainer.com or CarryTrainer.com.
I said I got me some gunfighter gun oil. Gunfighter gun oil, baby. Gunfighter gun oil, no more gunfighter blues. Made in the USA, amazing lubricity, 100% synthetic, baby. So it's gonna last you longer. So go on CarryTrainer.com and order yourself some gunfighter gun oil, gunfighter lube, to get rid of your gunfighter blues. I said go on and order yourself some gunfighter lube. Gunfighter lube. Yeah!